Hi, welcome to educators.com. I'm Shravanti, your Hadoop instructor. So in this module, we are going to discuss about the Hive data types, the primitive data types, and also the Hive complex data types. And if we see the Hive primitive data types, these are into the integers. These integers consisting of a multiple, that is a tiny int, small int, big int. This is purely based upon your the byte sizes. You will be choosing it. So mostly, in case if you wanted to specify any of the numbers, you can directly specify the int, or you can also specify the subtypes like a tiny int, small int, or big int as well, based on the bytes you are going to use. This integers is mainly for the any of the integer numbers, any of the numbers if you wanted to specify, you will be using the integers. Where in case of the Boolean types, these Boolean types are mainly if you want to store any of the values with the true and false. So in that case, you can use this data type as a Boolean. And also, we are having something called a floating point numbers. That means if you are having any of the decimals, if I wanted to store any of the value like a 2.5 or any of the values with the decimal points, you can specify that as a either a float, that is for the single precision, and if you wanted to have a if you wanted to have the same floating numbers, the same decimal numbers with a double precision, you can also simply give that as a double. So the string is nothing but similar to all other programming languages, like whenever you see these the content, if it is consisting of a characters, multiple characters, then you can specify that as a string data type. That means to store the integers, you will be having the int, and to store the floating point numbers, you will be having either float or double. To store the boolean, you can use a true or false, you can use the boolean. And to store any of the strings, you will be having the data type as a string. So we'll be specifying these data types while creating the tables. When, as we see in the previous modules, when I created a table, create table, table name, for example, employee table name, emp id int, that is employee id is the integer, and the emp name string, that is sequence of characters. Suppose if you are having any of the sum or any of the average or any of these values, you can even specify that as part of your float. So these are all primitive data types which we are having it. And apart from that, we are also having something called complex data types. So what exactly these complex data types are nothing but, suppose if your input data is consisting of a different things, the combination of the primitives, right? So here we'll be discussing about a lot of complex data types. Few of them are struct, array, map. So what exactly the struct is? So when we can use the struct is nothing but, suppose if you are having the data set which consisting of a different data types, right? So if you wanted to have those different data types, then you can use the struct. And also if you observe this, how you will be defining is nothing but struct, and I am having the two different data types, A integer, B integer. Otherwise you can also have the B as another data types as well. So if you wanted to refer this particular A or B, what is the struct name? Let's assume the struct name is C. So I can refer it with the help of the dot notation like C dot A or C dot B. Like that you can specify. If you see the syntax of this thing, at the time of the creating the table itself, we need to define how exactly the data types look like. See this? For example, I do have some student information, create table, this is the table name, the data type, this is the ID is the integer student ID, but I do have a student info which is a struct, because that student info consisting of a multiple data types. One is the student name, other one is the student age. Student age is the integer and student name is a string. So collection of these two things, I call it as a struct. The rest of the things are same. We are defining the row format delimited, how are fields terminated, and here you have to also specify how the collection items terminated by. The collection items are nothing but whatever the details you are having it here, right? The input file. If you see the input file over here, this is the age. This is a student name and age. They both are separated with the colon, semicolon, right? So you have to specify that the collection items terminated, how those are terminated by. So let's create this particular table and let's try to access this struct items as well. So let me log into the Cloudera Quick Start VM and let me. Alright, I have just logged into the Cloudera Quick Start VM and open the terminal, logged into the Hive shell. And now we can create a table. I have just copied the content. And here, after logging into the Hive shell, as per the presentation, what we have done is, as I have shown you, create table, the table name, and I have mentioned the data type. This is the primitive data type, and if you see this student information, which consisting of the name and also the age, which is in the form of a struct, and the struct name is info. And now, how the row format delimited and how the collection items are terminated by. This field ID and this the rest of the fields are separated by the comma in your input file. And the collection items are nothing but those are the struct fields are separated by a colon there. So that is the reason why we have created a table. So if you see the input file, let's create some of the input file as well. So for that, I'm just opening the another terminal, and here with the help of the either cat or gedit, you can use a gedit to create a file. All right, the input file. Or you have to specify the file name. Let's call it as some student.txt is the file. We can enter the details, student ID, and then we have to give the rest of the details as a student name and also the age, right? So here let's call it as ABC is the student name and 18 is the age. If you see this, how the collection items are terminated by, this is my struct, right? So it is terminated by the semicolon, colon, and here it is separated by your comma. So the row format delimited, the fields terminated by the comma, and the collection items are terminated by a symbol. The next line, let's give it as XYZ and then some 16. Okay, this is a 1 or 2 because different ID. So let's assume some details are there. So let's just save it. We have to load the data into the Hadoop. Right, if you see whether the content is available or not, right, we have loaded the content. And now let's load this data into our Hive table. And now whatever the input file, student and student.txt, which we have created, we are just loading with the help of the load data, that is the local input file, right? So load data local in path into the student test is the table which we created. So once it is done, and now if you wanted to see that, select start from student underscore test table. It was loaded successfully and you can see the details. See here 101, ABC and the age, and also you are having 102, the name and the age of the students. So for example, if you wanted to refer this particular content, all right, so how you can refer is with the dot notation. Like what is the name of the structure? The name of the struct is info. So we have to refer info dot age like that with the help of the dot notations. Yeah, so here you can just describe the table and you can also see that this info is a struct. right? So what we wanted to do, we wanted to refer this particular age column I wanted to display. So how you can display? Info is the struct name dot age. From which table? This is the table student underscore test. So if you observe this, it will display the content. So in simple words, what we have done is we have created a struct at the time of creating the table. Complex data types this we have used because it is having a multiple data types. One is the integer, one is the string. So we created a struct and we loaded the data. Then to refer that particular data, we use the dot notation. This is how we will be using the struct. So, and the next complex data type is array. What is this array is nothing but if you are having the same data types inside this multiple elements are having the same data types unlike your struct, then you can use this particular array. This example, this array consisting of these braces, and inside this you are having the elements A, B and C. So these are all of the same type. That is the first thing. And if you wanted to refer this particular item, the second item or first item, whatever it may be, so it starts with the 0th index. That means let's assume this ABC, the name of these array is something called A or whatever. So if you wanted to refer it, A of 1, it refers to the B because it starts with the 0. A of 0 is this, A of 1, A of 2. Like that, you will be using the arrays whenever you are having the same collection of the same data type elements. So let's create an array over here and then let's try to refer that array with the help of your content. And here we are creating an array. All right, just create table. The table name is a class. And here we are having the student name and also we'll be having the student IDs list. And also here we will be specifying how the array elements are separated with and also how the fields are separated with. So once we create the table, if you wanted to load this data into this table, we have to prepare one of the data set. So for that, I'm opening the another shell, another which is not Hive shell, and then we can prepare the content with the help of this gedit, some class info or whatever, some file name I am just going to specify, which consisting of yeah. So here what we do have is here we are having the class information. That class information consisting of some the class name, CSE, and also we'll be having these the details of your uh, how many the class IDs which we are having it, right? So you can mention that example the class IDs are some 4 students are there. So these are the 4 students class IDs. And similar way we are also having the mechanics, that is another branch, right? And here the field separated with the comma and the collection item separated with the colons. These are all the different IDs which consisting of. So let's just save our class info, right? So what we can do, we can directly load this class info.txt into the Hive tables. So we are into the Hive tables and let's load that data into that. Load data local in path. And what is the name of the file name which we have created is the home Cloudera, and class info.txt is the file name. And into which table we wanted to load? We wanted to load into the class table. Okay, this is local load data local in path. right? The data has been successfully loaded. So if you wanted to see whether the data is loaded or not, you can directly use the select statement and you can display the content. See here, these are all the different branches, the classes. One is the computers, one is the mechanics, and this is the collection of the student IDs. The reason why I have used the array is nothing but the IDs are always the same type. All the items are integers. Whatever the collection item, whatever the type of the array which you are specifying it over here, all the items have to belongs to the same data type. So here if you wanted to refer that particular any of the column from there, you can simply give the select. What is the array name? Student underscore ID underscore list is the array name. Suppose if you wanted to specify, suppose if I specify a 2 over here, or for example the 1 over here, student ID list of 1 from which table? Class underscore text. Right, it display all the contents. What is the list of student ID list of 1? As I mentioned you that it starts with the 0th index. The next one is the 1. So in this 2 it returns, and in this it returns the 6. And also, for example, if I specify student ID list of 2, but in this input there is no 2, right? Because it starts with the 0 and this is 1. There is no 2 column, so it displays you the null value. And in the previous record, it was list array of 2 is nothing but 0, 1, and 2 is value 3. So it displays that. In the next record, as there is no array of 2 value, so it displays the null. So this is how you can use the arrays by simply specifying this complex data type whenever all the elements are having the same data type. Unlike your struct, there you can use the dot notation to refer that. In the array, you will be using the this what we call it as this braces, and in between this you will be specifying the index value, where index starts with the 0. And another complex data types which we have in the Hive is the map. So especially this map, whenever you are having the values as a key and value pairs, anything if you wanted to have seen the key and value pairs, you can use that in the map. There is one restriction, like always the key has to be a primitive data type. That means either integer, float, string, or boolean. Any of the value as a key. The value can be a key. So the value can be anything. It can be even the complex data types as well. So if you wanted to refer that particular the map keys values, what you can do is with the help of these the map name of that key name, you can clearly it retrieves the value which is belongs to that specific key. So to create this, what we are going to do is we have to specify with the help of this map, similar to how you are defining a struct. So let me create that. And now what we have done is we created a table, all right? And here if you observe, I do have an employee ID, and also we are having the employee performance as well over here with the help of the map, which is consisting of a string and integer, that is a key and the value. And you have to also mention how your collection items are terminated by and how your map keys are terminated by. Based on these values, you will be specifying those details there. And now this tab is nothing but how exactly your fields are terminated by. To specify this, we will be using either comma or tab, or based on your input file how your fields are terminated, you can specify that thing. So in this, what we are going to do is we are going to have all the details about our employee skills. This is the employee ID, and what about the skills, like the communication wise, what is the skills rating, like 1 to 5, what is the rating? This is a skill name, like technical, he got some 4 out of 5. And in the next key and value, that will be like communication, how much he got, and also the next, how many value added things this particular employee has done and what we can rate him. So this is how we'll be very fun. We'll be having this. So to have this, let's prepare our input file. To have your input file, we are creating All right, employee skills.txt, for example. In this, we are placing the content, which is some employee ID is the, for example, 1. And if you see this, these are all the map key and values. See, this key is the technical and the value is the 3. That is the technical skill, what we can rate from out of 1 to 5. The next skill is the communication and what we can, what we can rate this particular person as part of this communication. And also the next one is the value added things, whether he has done anything or not. So like this, you will be having these values. And if you observe your previous details over here, this thing is nothing but how your fields are terminated by. If you see this, my field is terminated by a tab, right? That is the reason why at the time of creation, what we have done over here is, if you observe this, fields terminated by the tab I have mentioned. And now how the collection items are terminated by. See this? These are all the different map key and values. The collection items are terminated by the comma over here. Alright, that is the reason why we have specified the collection items terminated by the comma. But what about your map items? What about your the map keys are terminated by? This is the map key and the value, right? So it is terminated by this colon. So we have to specify that key over here, right? That is how you will be having your details. You can just save that and you can load that file into your Hadoop. Your Hive table, load data, local in path. And here we do have home Cloudera. And inside this, the file name is empskills.txt is the file. Into table, and employee is the table which we wanted to load it, right? We have loaded that. If you wanted to see that once, okay, there is a select spelling mistake and here it is select, yes. See this, you can see the values like this is the, what we call it as, this is the key, that is the employee, this is the normal employee ID, the first column. This one is a map key and value, map key and value. This is how you will be specifying your values. And so here if you observe this how the maps are created, it is always need to have the key and the value pairs and how your map keys are terminated by. Alright, so let me just show you that in the quick start. So here the small change, whatever the empskills.txt is there, right? So we just modified the empskills.txt file and wherein we just have this information related to what is this employee IDs and also what is this technical ratings and also what is this communications rating. Right, so once you update this and you can just load that into the the EMP skills table. I mean that is the employee table. You can truncate the employee table and just reload that into this the employee skills table with the help of your the statement load data local in path. And here what is the table which we are talking about, the emp skills.txt into the table, and what is the table name, it is the employee. So you can directly mention these details. Yeah, so here whatever the employee details are there, we are just overwriting it. Overwriting into the table is nothing but it will simply, whatever the content is there initially, it will delete and it will simply overwrite that data into those tables. Once that is done, here after loading, if you see the content, you can see the employee IDs and also the key and value pairs details, right? So if you wanted to display the content of whoever is having these the technical things, what you can do is simply you can refer what is the name of that. If you do not know the name, you can simply describe your employee table, and here you can see the map name as well, right? What is the map name? Perf. So how you are going to define it? Select perf of, and what is the content inside that? I wanted to know about the technical thing. So here technical. So from which table? Employee is the table. What it is going to do is wherever it is matching with this key as technical, it will retrieve those values. So if you observe this for this technical, the value is 3 and here the value is 4. The rest of these things, it will display the nulls. See here, display 3, 4, and none. Like that, wherever you are having the key and values, you can specify like this. So summary, in this module, we have understand about the primitive data types, which is integer, float, string, boolean, and also we do have something called a date as well. And so here, as we discussed about the integers is to have your any integral numbers, and float is for the decimal, float or double. The string is for the sequence of characters, and the boolean is for the true and false. And the date, it is always displayed that in the year, that is YYYY hyphen MM hyphen GD. Year, month, date is the format. In the similar way, you are also having something called a timestamp that display you the instead of the date, it includes the date, it also display you the hours, minutes, and seconds, those details as well. And also in terms of the complex data types, we do have a struct, array, and a map. And in case of the struct, especially if you are having the content of multiple data types, then you can have this struct and you can uh, access the elements with the help of the dot notation there. And in case of the array, if you are having the same type of the elements like integer or float, any kind of the single types of the elements, then you can use the array and you can start with the help of your braces like a of 0 with the index you can mention. Where in case of the map, it always consisting of a key and value. If you wanted to define your, retrieve that value, you can just simply specify with the help of the map of that particular key. It will display you the content of that the value associated with that key. Thank you. Let's catch up in the next module.